and we're going to get into it. First, we're going to start with the 2019 Raptors versus the 2020 Lakers. And so, Penn, we are going to start with you first. The time starts whenever you do.
Okay, let's talk about this roster. I think some of y'all might have selective amnesia because you don't remember that you had a future all-star coming off the bench in Fred VanVleet, a future max player, current Nick, OG Anunoby, coming off the bench. You had a three-time all-defense, Serge Ibaka, still very much in his prime, coming off the bench. And you had a future six-man of the year contender in Norman Powell, coming off the bench. Look at the depths. The depth matters in the playoffs when you start facing injuries. I don't even talk about the starters. We got the ultimate 3-and-D prototype, Danny Green, Green Ranger, 3 championships with 3 different teams, always as a starter. You got a future Hall of Famer in Kyle Lowry, probably one of the most underrated players of all time, starting at point guard, 6-time All-Star. You got future 2-time All-NBA, Pascal Siakam. Still, I mean, we're talking next year he was All-NBA. He was right there. He's good. I don't think the Lakers can stop all that. I didn't even talk about Marc Gasol. Defensive Player of the Year, Marc Gasol. I think Akon wrote Locked Up about Marc Gasol's defense on Joel Embiid pretty much retroactively in hindsight. He saw the future of what was happening for Joel Embiid. You're gonna score on this team? This entire team was defensive. Notice I haven't mentioned Kawhi Leonard once because this was a team. Now we talk about Kawhi Leonard, the baddest man on the planet. He came in and he owned LA, right? Y'all remember the commercial? Y'all remember that commercial? New Balance, you remember the commercial? Kawhi Leonard was a 2-time Finals MVP, and he got this shit on lock. 2 seconds to spare.
I'm locked up. John D, round 1. Take us away.
Okay, so I like how you brought in the depth of the 2019 Toronto Raptors. The Lakers actually played more players throughout that playoff run than the Toronto Raptors did. The Lakers played 9, the Toronto Raptors played 8. The Lakers are beating out the Toronto Raptors in playoff stats in points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, field goal percentage, and three-point percentage. And I love the Kawhi Leonard defensive talk. And Kawhi Leonard was amazing in that playoff run. He averaged 30 points per game. Pascal Siakam averaged 19. Kyle Lowry averaged 15. But are you really going to tell me that Kawhi Leonard is going to average 30 points per game and guard potentially the greatest player of all time, and then leave Anthony Davis to Serge Ibaka game in and game out? That is a tough series to win. LeBron James in the playoffs averaged 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists. That's very hard to stop. On top of Anthony Davis averaging 28 points and 10 rebounds on 60% from the field. Once again, very hard to stop. And we know how LeBron James loves to play with floor spacers. He loves to play with floor spacers. So let's talk about some of the shooters that were around him. Danny Green, Kyle Kuzma, KCP, Markieff Morris, even Rajon Rondo was shooting 40% from the 3. Anthony Davis was shooting 38% from the 3. You cannot help off of anybody. So LeBron James in space, good luck. Good luck. And then you have Anthony Davis, who was considered a top 5 player in the league at the moment. I mean, look at LeBron's nickname, LeBronto. One of the greatest playoff performers of all time. It's hard to beat him.
John just came through with a curveball. Penn, how do you feel about this?
I like how you didn't mention bubble. All right. I don't know what John D stands for. I don't know what the D stands for. It doesn't stand for debate. Maybe it stands for decimated. Maybe it stands for something else. All right. I'm glad you brought up the competition. All right. 4 teams that the Raptors faced. I want to let y'all know that there were 4 teams prior to the season that were favored to win the championship. It was the Toronto Raptors at number 4, Philadelphia at number 3, Milwaukee Bucks at number 2, and the Dynasty Warriors at number 1. The Raptors had to go through every one of those teams to win that championship. So I don't know what you're talking about. You lost me at Rajon Rondo. I'll live with Rajon Rondo threes all day. There's a reason he shot 40% because he ain't no one within 50 feet of that guy guarding him. Who did the bubble Lakers face? Oh, right. I forgot. They faced a 31-year-old James Harden, a 30-year-old James Harden, a 31-year-old Russell Westbrook. Who were the rest of their teammates? Robert Covington, PJ Washington. Compared the second rounds, you know who the Raptors faced in the second round? They faced the Philadelphia 76ers. They faced Joel Embiid in his prime. They faced Jimmy Butler in his prime. They faced Ben Simmons in his prime. They faced JJ Redick and Tobias Harris. They were so good they let Jimmy Butler walk. Now we're talking about what's LeBron going to do. Yo, I tell you, I bet you in this debate, you didn't look up Kawhi Leonard's stats against LeBron James. He did nasty work on LeBron James. You remember the 2014 finals? The same shit's about to happen, except this time, Kawhi was on an even better team, a deeper team.
John D, take it away.
Okay, so I love that the fact that you brought up the bubble, because in the end of the day, the Lakers were the one who were robbed out of the bubble. They finished the season 52-19 and would have been the first seed if the bubble would have never happened. They would have had home court advantage. And when we talk about the teams that they played in the bubble, the Blazers were number 3 in offense. The Rockets were number 6 in offense. The Nuggets were number 5 in offense. These are premier offenses that the Lakers are going against. And we're talking about the Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid being in his prime. He averaged 17 points on under 35% shooting from the field in that series. And they still went to 7 games. 4 games of that series, Joel Embiid shot under 30% in that series, and it still went 7 games. The Toronto Raptors had a very good playoff run. Don't get me wrong, but it took some type of something in their favor for them to win it all, and that was KD being hurt. And what happened when KD played against the Raptors in that one game? He shot 3 for 3 from 3 and 3 for 5 from the field, having 11 points in about 12 minutes. He was cooking the Raptors the second he stepped on the floor. I really don't understand how the Raptors can walk away in a series like this, because you don't want Marc Gasol guarding AD, especially not out on the perimeter. You don't want Serge Ibaka doing it out on the perimeter, and you're praying Pascal Siakam doesn't get switched on him. I don't understand how the Raptors are going to guard this team. I really don't. Some of the best basketball minds that we've seen in this generation, with Rajon Rondo and LeBron James going up against this Raptors team, I would say 5 or 6.
We have one more round. Pin, round 3. Talk to us.
Now I know what John D stands for. It stands for deep fried, because you just deep fried yourself, son. You just talked about Joel Embiid's 17 points per game. 17 points per game, my dude. There's a reason he averaged 17 points per game. It's called locked up. Akon reference again. Marc Gasol, did you watch that series? I bet you didn't. But if you did, you saw Marc Gasol playing Hall of Fame defense. They don't win that championship without Marc Gasol. But let's talk about what it really means to be a champion. It means defending that championship. It doesn't mean just winning in the bubble. I'll tell you right now, that Lakers championship is the least impressive championship in LeBron's entire career. Okay. I don't care who you are, you're ranking at Cleveland won number 1, but you had a chance, right? The next year to follow that championship up with the defense. And what did you do? You got swept in the first round by the Phoenix Suns in the next round. Okay. The next year. But what did the Raptors do? They lost Danny Green. They lost Kawhi Leonard, the finals MVP, and they followed that 56-win season up by being on pace for 60 wins the next year. That is a testament to how damn good that team is, because that team was built on defense. It was not built on La La Land. It was not built on LeBron bailing them out. It was not built on 1 or 2 players. It was built on a team. And that team, by the way, went through Giannis Antetokounmpo and built a wall on him. They went through the Dynasty Warriors, and you can talk about Kevin Durant all you want, but let me not talk about all the teams they had to face to get to that point. I think they would have beat the Warriors anyway.
John D, it is round 3. Talk to us.
Okay, so the very next year, the Los Angeles Lakers were riddled with a lot of injuries before the playoffs even started. Before AD went down with his first injury that season, the Los Angeles Lakers were 22-7. 22-7. Now, I don't know how that really translates into an 82-game season, but I know that's good enough to be top in the Western Conference. The Lakers were up 2-0 before AD went down. They lost 4-2 in that first round series against the Suns. And when we talk about who's going up against each other in a 7-game series, we're talking about LeBron James, one of the greatest playoff performers that we have ever seen, with Anthony Davis in a 9-man rotation of Marquise Morris. What are they going to do when he's stretching the floor? Kyle Kuzma, what are they going to do when he's stretching the floor? Avery Bradley, great defender. Alex Caruso, great defender. Danny Green, KCP, these are great defenders. We have somebody to throw at anybody. Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. These guys are going to come out and play 100% every single game. I do not know how the Raptors can win this series. We've seen LeBron James beat better with worse. We've seen it all the time. And even if we talk about the Miami Heat, who were a 7 seed, they were a 6 seed, and they were still top 10 in offense. They have played elite talent throughout every single round. At first, it was Damian Lillard, who just dropped 60 in that bubble. James Harden, the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic right before he won his MVP season, and Jamal Murray, who was also playing extremely well with the Heat, who are on a crazy run. I think the Los Angeles Lakers do not get enough credit for what they did in the 2020 bubble.
All right, there you have it. That is our first topic. Y'all both made great cases. Y'all was going back and forth. I don't know who won this. Let's get into topic 2. Penn, you started topic 1. So, John D, you will start round 1 for topic 2. Go ahead and do your thing.
Appreciate that, Ron. Now, when I look at the 2000 Spurs, the one thing that I really appreciate is consistency and the unselfish basketball that was around this team. And when we look at the 2000 Spurs, even now, the San Antonio Spurs have the most wins since 2000 by a wide margin, even with their 5 past seasons having under 35 wins. So when we talk about from 2000 to 2014, dominating the entire league, they are a team with 3 different championships in 3 different generations, late 90s, all through 2000s, and mid 2010s. The San Antonio Spurs have been able to accumulate talents throughout that entire run, drafting guys like Tony Parker late in the first round, Manu Ginobili late in the draft period, and then we have guys like Kawhi Leonard who were just outside the lottery. And when we talk about defense, the San Antonio Spurs have had some of the greatest defense we have ever seen throughout the entire 2000s, from 2000 to 2009. Number 2 in defensive rating, number 3, number 4, number 5. They never fell out of the top 5 in their entire championship run when it comes to defense. That's why they were able to beat teams like the Kobe Shaq Lakers, the best offense in the league, Phoenix Suns, the Dirk-led Dallas Mavericks. It's happened multiple times why they were able to beat a Cleveland Cavaliers LeBron James team. And we don't talk about that as much because we already know that LeBron has not had as much talent, but we know that the San Antonio Spurs have a talented, great dynasty, and I think it's more impressive than the Lakers.
Ben, you're up next.
I thought we were talking about dynasties. 5 championships in 17 years is not a dynasty. When you think of the greatest franchises in the NBA, who do you think of? Today, with the benefit of hindsight, you think about Boston and Los Angeles. But if you would ask Magic Johnson when he was drafted, best franchise in NBA history, that was the Boston Celtics, clear. But you didn't know that prior to the 80s, it was just the Celtics. Indeed, 11 of the 18 championship banners in Boston came during Bill Russell's era. From 1959 through 1969, they added their 12th in 1974, their 13th in 1976. That means the Showtime Lakers have as many championships as the Celtics have won in the last 47 years. Okay? From 1980 to 1991, the Lakers made the finals 9 times and won 5 championships. I need you to understand the level of domination because their 115.6 offensive rating, okay, literally held up for 30 years as the greatest offensive rating of all time. Give this video a like if you actually watch them play, because I think a lot of people in your chat are a little too young to have watched them play. But I know you heard about them. I know you heard about all those players. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the greatest scorer, the greatest post scorer in NBA history. James Worthy, Michael Cooper, AC Green. I know you've heard the names, but it's been almost 40 years. Are you going to have heard of every one of those Spurs outside of those top 3 guys? 50 years from now, 40 years from now, the Lakers literally changed basketball. We need to talk about context when it comes to dynasties.
John D, it's your turn to talk about context. Round 2.
Appreciate that, Ron. Now, when we look at the Spurs, right, they have been able to constantly bring in talent. They have been able to be some of the greatest teams we've seen in one of the greatest eras we've seen. I don't know if I can say that about the Showtime Lakers. I mean, steady going back and not really showing any adversity getting to those rings. I mean, you have the Larry Bird Celtics, but I really don't see anybody else outside of that. From a talent standpoint, the Lakers were a dominant team. They were head and shoulders almost above everyone else. I don't think the Spurs felt that way. In 2014, they faced a lot of adversity by almost giving up in 2013. And in 2005, when they beat the greatest defense to ever play, and they were the greatest defense to ever play. They have so much to talk about when it comes to bringing in more talent in Kawhi Leonard and Tony Parker. These guys, Greg Popovich being the greatest coach to ever play. Tony Parker coming in and taking the #1 spot. There are so many things to talk about when it comes to the San Antonio Spurs team that I really like from this standpoint. They beat the Pistons, Suns, Melo's Nuggets, the Dirk Nowitzki-led Mavs, Shaq and Kobe's Lakers, there was teams that were stacked just as much as the San Antonio Spurs, and they still came out and beat them and were better teams. We'll let it go.
All right, that's that. It's back on you, Penn, and your time will start when you do.
What? Okay, I'm so glad that you were the one to bring up who they faced. So let's talk about who they actually faced. Who did the Lakers actually win against? Let's see. They beat Moses Malone and Dr. J. I know y'all heard of those names, even though it's been damn near 50 years. They beat Larry Bird. Y'all remember the Larry Bird teams, how stacked they were? Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale. Y'all remember Danny Ainge? You remember how stacked those teams were? They beat those teams. They also beat the bad boy Pistons, which are the real best defensive team of all time, if you want my opinion. So you saying they didn't go up against anyone is absolutely crazy, criminal, and insane. Now, who did the Spurs beat? Well, let's see. They beat the 8th seed Knicks. Now, I'm a New York kid, so I appreciate rooting for that team, but ain't nobody in the world thought that the Knicks without Patrick Ewing were a real shot at the contention. They defended that championship, by the way, that lockout shortened championship, by losing in the first round again to Phoenix. Then they spent the next 2 years not making the finals, getting bounced by Shaq and Kobe and the Lakers. They got swept in 2001 and lost 4-1 in the 2002. That's a dynasty to you? That's crazy to me. Okay. The Lakers made the finals 9 times. That's a real dynasty. Dynasties are built on continual success and domination. They are not built on 1 year we're in, next year we get bounced, next year we're in, 5 years we don't win a championship. I don't know what. This is not even a debate.
Round 3. You got it.
One of the best parts about the San Antonio Spurs is they have one of the greatest stories of all time when it comes to losing in the fashion that they did back in 2013 and then winning it all the very next year in 2014. I mean, we all watched the 2013 NBA Finals when it looked like they were about to win and Heat fans were leaving the arena. The Heat end up forcing it to overtime, and then they win in overtime. And then the San Antonio Spurs just knew they were losing in Game 7. I mean, Greg Popovich, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, these guys have all said that they considered retiring after a loss like that, and they all saddled up and won the very next year, showing the greatest display of team basketball that we have ever seen, giving up 120 points per 100 possessions in that stretch. Guys like LeBron, guys like Chris Bosh, guys like D. Wade, they all said that this is some of the greatest basketball they have ever seen. And that is a testament to their consistency from winning from 2000 to 2014. Once again, they still have the highest wins in the 2000 era in NBA history while still having their last 5 seasons being under 35 wins. They still comfortably have the most wins since 2000. There's not a team that has more consistency than the San Antonio Spurs, while constantly being able to bring in talent, constantly being able to develop talent, and constantly being able to win. I think the San Antonio Spurs are proof that consistency wins championships, and it makes you all-time great teams.
All right, Penn, it's your 3rd round on this topic. Talk to us.
How are you talking consistency if you do the math on this? And we got to talk about impact first, then we'll get to the math, because I don't want to talk about basketball. Your chat doesn't like basketball. Let's just talk impact and narratives. The NBA was going broke. The league was, quote unquote, too black, according to white media. And the Boston Celtics were America's sweethearts, the darlings. Ask your grandfather, ask your father what it meant to beat them, what it meant to be Showtime. We are talking about the beautiful game Spurs that everyone wants to talk about. By the way, check the record. Who's narrating the opening on the beautiful game Spurs? It's Magic Johnson. He's talking about how they're the first team to play like us. You got to give the original some credit. Okay, so let's do some math here. Your so-called dynasty won 5 championships in 17 years. That doesn't sound like consistency. During that time, they lost in the first round 4 times. Not very consistent, if you ask me. And oh, by the way, they sucked for ratings. Just give me context here. The first time the Spurs made the finals in 1999 against the media darling that was the New York Knicks, the finals ratings literally halved from the year before. The 2003 Spurs Nets finals and the 2007 Cavs, LeBron breaking through versus the Spurs finals were 2 of the least watched finals in modern NBA history. So when I talk impact, I talk Celtics, I talk Lakers, I talk Showtime. You got 9 seconds to spare. Go touch grass.
We are about to run the polls right now. We got round 3 to get into, or topic 3 to get into. And this last topic is going to be a fun one. It's going to be an entertaining one. We got 2011 Derrick Rose versus 2017 Russell Westbrook, who indeed had the greater MVP season. Let's get into it. Penn, it's back on you to go first. Your time starts whenever you do, my friend.
All right, let's go. Russell Westbrook finished top 5 in MVP voting 4 years between 2014 and 2018. He just happened to win once. The media does not like Russell Westbrook. The media loves Derrick Rose. You know how I know that? Because Derrick Rose got MVP votes in 2021. That's how I know that. Okay, let's talk about the numbers that y'all know. 31.6 points versus 25, Russell clears. 10.7 rebounds versus 4.1, Russell clears. 10.4 assists versus 7.7, Russell clears. Y'all call Russell Westbrook a non-shooter. He shot better from the 3-point percentage than Derrick Rose too. 11.1 box plus minus to 6.8. And I'd be remiss if I'd not mentioned 9.3 VORP. Okay, now 8.0 is what Basketball Reference describes as a GOAT season, like a Hall of Fame season. Now, this is something that's going to blow your mind. Do you know how many times LeBron James cleared Derrick Rose's 6.6 box plus minus? Literally every year of his career, except for his rookie season and his last 2 Lakers seasons. You know how many times he cleared Russell Westbrook's 11.1? 3 times. 2010, 2011, 2013, if I'm not mistaken. Do you know how many times Michael Jordan cleared? Every single time Michael Jordan played basketball, he cleared he cleared Derrick Rose, except for 3 seasons, two seasons with the Wizards and the baseball season. He only cleared Westbrook 5 times.
John
D, round 1, you got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Derrick Rose is the youngest MVP that the NBA has ever seen, averaging 25 points, 7 assists, and 4 rebounds. And this is something that I want to make very important in this argument because Russell Westbrook, Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose was in his 3rd season in the NBA. And let's talk about some point guards who later won MVP. Steph Curry was in his 6th season. Russell Westbrook was in his 9th season. James Harden was in his 9th season. We are talking about 3rd year Derrick Rose. 3rd year. So when we look at point guards and players today, how long does it usually take for them to reach their peak? How long does it usually take? From about 5 to 6 or 7 years, depending on the player. But we all know Derrick Rose, barring injury, was not at his peak of basketball. There was a lot of getting better for Derrick Rose to do. Mind you, he led that Chicago Bulls team to being a 62-win team with Carlos Boozer playing 48 games and Joakim Noah playing 53 games. Guys like Keith Bogans were getting regular minutes for the Chicago Bulls that season, and Derrick Rose, as an offensive engine in his 3rd season, still brought them to 62 wins over teams like the Heat, the Celtics, and the Magic, all in that season. Derrick Rose was an elite offensive engine. He was elite getting downhill, and he did not have an answer for him. There was not an answer for Derrick Rose. There was not an answer for Derrick Rose in that season, especially with the injuries that were next to him and leading that team to 62 wins. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. I think Derrick Rose impacted winning more than Russell Westbrook did in his MVP season.
There you have it. The first rounds are in. Penn, it's back on you. Go ahead.
And I like Derrick Rose a lot more than I like Russell Westbrook, but even I'm not crazy enough to try to make this debate. Now, you said impacted winning more. Mathematically, that is untrue. 13.1 win shares each. So they both had that, even though Russell was the better player. Now, you mentioned that he had inferior teammates that he carried, and Carlos Boozer and all that stuff. Here's some fast math for you. Joakim Noah was a 2-time All-Star. He made 3 all-defensive teams. Luol Deng was a 2-time All-Star. He made 1 all-defensive team. Boozer, who you're slandering here, playing 48 games, he was a 2-time All-Star, and he made an All-NBA team too, might I add. Do you know that those 3 guys are the leading win share getters on the Bulls after Derrick Rose? Here are the 3 win share getters on the OKC Thunder after Russell Westbrook. Steven Adams, who's never made an All-NBA team, never made an All-Defense. He's made 3 He's made no all-defensive teams, no all-star teams, no all-NBA. Enes Kanter, never been an all-star, never been all-NBA. Andre Robertson, never been all-star or all-NBA. What are we talking about? Russ carried. He carried one of the worst rosters in the league. Without him, they might have won 15 games if they were lucky. And I don't even want to hear about Victor Oladipo because he was so moved. He wasn't that great for the OKC Thunder, but the next year he went on to become became all-NBA and all-star. And you know who he credited for inspiring all that work? Watching Russell Westbrook.
John D, round 2. Talk to us.
Ladies and gentlemen, Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double in his MVP season. Now, that's easy to tell. You know, only player or second player to ever do it. Most triple-doubles in a single season, second player to average a triple-double. But when we look at the numbers of Russell Westbrook's triple-double, 80% of his rebounds were uncontested. 90% of every possession he had the ball. And when we talk about Russell Westbrook, his MVPs don't get brought up as much anymore because he averaged triple doubles 3 out of the 4 next seasons and didn't get out of the first round once. So how much winning does Russell Westbrook really have if he can't get out of the first round? Every time he was the guy on every team he was on and averaged a triple double, they couldn't eclipse 50 wins or get out of the first round. And they brought in a top 15 player in Paul George. What player did Derrick Rose have in his MVP season like that to bring in some type of winning? I'm really confused on how Derrick Rose can impact winning because we've seen players like Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic have triple doubles at the rate of Russell Westbrook, and they were able to take their team to the finals. They were able to win an NBA championship, but in that same season, Russell Westbrook averaged triple doubles and it amounted to nothing. It was empty stats. He might as well have played on the Wizards. Because they got smoked out in the first round. I just think Derrick Rose's MVP season was phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes to winning and how much he impacted winning, in my opinion, I don't feel as though he did.
All right, Penn, round 3. Go ahead.
I love the story of Derrick Rose, hometown kid, good kid, wins an MVP, youngest MVP ever. But this is not the debate of who was younger. I don't know why you're bringing up Paul George because he wasn't on the team we're talking about. He wasn't there that year, okay? You're talking about empty calories, empty stats, nothing, okay? We are talking about a media darling versus a media pariah. We're talking about a guy that the media hated every year. Russell Westbrook was in contention. I want you to understand how good a guy had to be hated as much as he was and still beat out the following players. This is who he beat out for MVP, just to put y'all on game. He had to beat out peak James Harden, peak Spurs Kawhi Leonard, peak LeBron, peak Steph, God mode Isaiah Thomas, Anthony Davis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kevin Durant, and John Wall. They hated him and they still had to give him his flowers for what he was doing. Because what this man was doing, don't talk to me about empty stats. It takes motor, it takes energy, it takes peak conditioning, frankly, to be that good on so many levels and do that much for your team. Talk about uncontested rebounds. Yeah, there's a reason he was running those rebounds. He was the best passer on the team and he initiated the fast break. That's why he got all those rebounds. But I'm glad you brought up D Rose. You know who was second place the year D Rose won it? Dwight freaking Howard. Russell Westbrook clears in a better conference during a better era, better competition.
John D, it is round 3.
All right. So once again, I'm going to talk about Russell Westbrook and his 62-win season without Carlos Boozer once again. And we're talking about Carlos Boozer being an All-NBA and an All-Star. He was not an All-NBA player or an All-Star with the Chicago Bulls. He just was not. And if you ask me, while I was watching as a kid, it looked like Taj Gibson was better than him in that tenure. I think once again, Derrick Rose was carrying just as bad as a team while they were hurt as Russell Westbrook was, with no Joakim Noah or nor Carlos Boozer. It was Luau Deng and Keith Bogans. And I think Ronnie Brewer was on that team as well. I don't necessarily remember. I think Derrick Rose at his 3rd season, still very young, averaging 25, 7 and 4. The year before that, they went 41 and 41. They jumped up 21 wins. He wasn't expected to win an MVP at all. And he came in and he erased all of that talk while averaging 25, 7 and 4. I think his season going all the way to the conference finals, being an offensive engine in his 3rd season, might I add, yes, yet again, he just had a better season than Russell Westbrook, in my opinion. The playoffs, the regular season, carrying a bad team, just like Russell Westbrook did when Joakim Noah and Carlos Boozer were out. I think Derrick Rose does not get as much credit as Russell Westbrook got, and I think he should have. I definitely think Derrick Rose should have.
All right, that is that. We got 3 good topics, 3 rounds with each topic, but now we need you guys to vote on this last one. 1:30 is up. Fellas, any last words on the way out?
I appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to seeing y'all next week.
Absolutely, absolutely. Penn?
Yeah. Today is my mother's birthday. My mom passed away in 2019, so I don't know. Something about me. I just said I can't lose on this day. So, John D, big respects to you, sir. I know I went a little bit personal with what D represents and all that stuff. Stupid,
no big deal, bro. No big
but,
deal.
You know, it's all love, and you did a great job, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Much respect.
Next week, both of you guys will be back. John D, you will be going against Gifted. Okay. And Penn, you get a chance to shine Swiper's eggnog.
It's going to be Japanese Yapathon. All right, let's go.
All right, well, fellas, I'll see you again next week. I'll be sending you guys your topics here very soon.
Appreciate that.
All right, appreciate you guys for coming through. Appreciate you for coming up. Hopefully, I get to catch you guys on the panel here very soon. You guys already know what time it is. We would catch you guys bright and early in the morning. Before I get out of here, let me grab this belt. Before I get out of here, I want to encourage everybody to like the video on the way out. And also, I'm going to give you next week's matchups. You guys heard me say a couple names, but I'm going to give you the for sure matchups for Wednesday. So on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, we'll get Hayes versus the favorite to win the whole thing, Dion from Ohio. And then after that at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time, we will get OG the Beast versus Casual. Those are both going to be 2 good matchups. Y'all are saying that both of these guys beat Ox. So we'll see if one of these guys can beat the other person. We'll see how that goes. And last but not least, we got Chill versus possibly the best debater to ever touch the Player's Choice platform, Jack Cody. So Chill, you better be doing your homework. You better be studying. You better do what you can do and what it takes. Chill, you better just be doing some push-ups right now, because it's going to go down next week when Jack Cody comes to pack you up. Until then, I will catch you guys on PCL on Wednesday and tomorrow morning. Y'all be cool. It's the player choice way. Yeah, them boys don't get it started. The player choice way. Y'all the player choice way. Come and switch lanes into the player choice way.